Well, it's been an eventful 48 hours, to say the least. We start off by Mario Cristobal finally hiring his offensive coordinator for 2023. Then later in the afternoon, he hires his new linebacker coach. Great choice there. And in the same afternoon, loses his running back coach. So a lot to go over. Let's dive in. Before I do that, please go down and hit that subscribe button. So let's start with the biggest story. Shannon Dawson, coming from the University of Houston, spent 3 years over there, averaging well over 30 points a game all 3 years he was there, comes over to the Miami Hurricanes with his air raid style attack. And a lot I want to go over about this because it's an interesting hire. I'm a little pleasantly surprised. This is a good thing. It's positive. I'm pleasantly surprised that Mario Cristobal wanted to go in such another direction, like away from his usual philosophy of just that ground and pound, control the clock kind of style. I do like that he was willing to change and evolve a little bit, as his mentor Nick Saban was back in whatever year it was. I want to say it was around the Jalen Hurts time that Nick Saban wanted to open it up at Alabama, and it sure as hell worked. So I think Mario Cristobal wants to do something similar here. Now, I know some people, they have their hesitations about this. Some people love it. Some people hate it. Of course, you'll never make all Miami fans happy. You'll never make any fan base totally happy, but especially Miami fans. So there's some people that don't like it. I think for the most part, the reaction is positive. Like I usually do, I wanted to give it a day to marinate. But, for the most part, I like the hire. I like the potential of what it could be because you're bringing in an air raid philosophy, but it's a coach that really emphasizes strong line of scrimmage play, a strong running game. If you look, not so much 2022. I mean, the running game was decent last year. They went 8-5, averaged 36 points a game. But if you go back to 2021, when Houston was 12-2 and ended up with a top 10 final ranking, their running game was deadly. And it was led by, I believe his last name's McCaskill, that freshman running back they had who had almost 1,000 yards. True freshman, broke all sorts of team records. And, that puts my mind at ease with the whole balanced offense thing, because I didn't want to go too air raid, obviously. I didn't want to bring in like someone who's going to throw it 80% of the time. And I'm sure, Mario Cristobal doesn't want that either. And I'm sure that kind of stuff was vetted. The interview process is exhaustive, as we've heard with Mario Cristobal. So I'm sure if Mario's willing to hire him, I'm sure Shannon Dawson just knocked the interview out of the park. And I think Coach Cristobal feels like he can kind of have a marriage of the two philosophies of the power running game, the power spread, and the air raid attack. Especially because, again, in 2021, Houston ran the ball more than they threw it. You can look this up. I think they threw it like 469 times and ran it like 500 times. So, look at the last couple of years and what he was able to accomplish at Houston. Now, I know there's some fans and some trolls or whatever, some Houston fans that are, mainly on Twitter and on message boards, which I don't take seriously at all. I take those with a massive grain of salt, kind of celebrating that he's gone or whatever. I have to address that. Look, I would say outside of 5 teams in college football, everybody hates their offensive coordinator. Everybody. NFL fan bases, college fan bases, everybody hates their offensive coordinator. Everybody's got something to say because everybody thinks they can do it better. Everybody thinks because they play Madden that they can do the X's and O's part better. Well, listen, the dude had good stats, good points per game. His offense was ranked high. I'm of the opinion you also have to look at the tape. You have to look at all the context, okay? Last year, Houston was 8-5. Their defense was ass, though. It was bad. It was very bad. They should have beaten Texas Tech on the road last year. The defense kind of coughed that one up at the end and let them force overtime. Also, Bubba Baxa is their kicker. I don't need to go into further detail there. And then you have the game against who was it? Tulane, very good Tulane team. They were 12-2 last year. Went down to the wire. I think they lost 27-23. I watched the tape of that game. I think he called a pretty solid game. It was just a bad fumble led to a bad scoop and score. And yeah, so there a lot of things could have bounced their way, but didn't last year. All in all, I think we are getting I think this was a solid hire. Were there other names out there that could have been better? Maybe, but at the end of the day, I'm not the one sitting down and interviewing the man like Coach Cristobal is. Okay, so let's factor that in. Now, with the philosophy he's bringing in, obviously this is going to be a big boost in recruiting for quarterbacks and wide receivers. This is definitely going to get somebody like Jeremiah Smith's attention. This is definitely going to get, someone like JoJo Trader, who I think we have a better shot at him. But there's going to be a lot of attention from elite talent at both positions. Obviously, we've heard or we've read Aaron Nolan's quotes about this, that he thinks Miami's going to have a very explosive offense under Coach Dawson. So looking forward to seeing that. We have sign off from Geno Smith, even, who, knows Coach Dawson well from their time at West Virginia. So, in that regard, very positive. And yeah, for the most part, I like the hire. There are some things I'm hesitant on. My co-host Flo, he's definitely went over a lot of those yesterday. There are a couple things that I would say are question marks. Is he Rhett Lashley 2.0? Well, let's dive into that real quick for a second. Does Coach Dawson use tempo? Absolutely. But I think one of the things that killed Rhett Lashley when he was here is just going at one speed. He was 100 miles an hour all the time. He didn't downshift. He didn't upshift. He didn't change, where I think Dawson is a little bit better at that. Coach Dawson also schemes guys open pretty well, I would say. He, uses the drag routes, the screens, uses rub routes here and there, uses the RPO, which obviously is a huge part of this game. I feel like that maybe I could be wrong. I'm not the X's and O's expert that some of the other YouTubers are, but I feel like the RPO wasn't utilized like it could have been. Definitely could have thrown a lot more halfback screens last year. How many times did TVD take a free blindside hit when there were two open blitzers on the left on his blind side that running back didn't pick up, no extra blocker picked up? He could have had a little dump off, little screen, could have gashed him for 25, 30 yards. Never did it, never tried it. Coach Dawson used the screenplay very well last year, gashed a lot of defenses with it. So looking forward to that. I'm just glad he actually uses the damn play because it's very effective. Pushes the vertical passing game. I love that. Last year we did not do that. And I'm not talking, I feel like we rarely took a shot down the field last year. And I'm not talking, we throw one down the field, it's 20 yards overthrown, but like, hey, at least we tried one, push the safeties back. No, I mean really attacking down the field. Coach Dawson will do that. All right, what else? Jakari Brown, I think, could be used as a weapon in this offense. The way Coach Gaddis tried to use him last year. And it worked at times, but I feel like it was like one play that he used him on. It was that read option. Either he kept it or he handed it off. Usually he kept it and tried to, bull his way forward for 3-4 yards. Usually it worked. Jakari's very tough to bring down. He's a big kid. I think if you have a Jakari package where you just have like 3 or 4 plays in his back pocket that he can go to, nothing crazy, not a whole playbook for him, just 3-4 plays that he can, kind of see how the defense is lined up and just kind of go from there. I think there's potential there. Also, a lot of people aren't talking about this, and I'm surprised, but what about Coach Dawson as a quarterback coach? Not an X's and O's guy, not a schemer, but strictly as a quarterback coach. Now, it's understood, at least as of right now, that he is coming over as the OC and the quarterback coach, which I like that a lot better. We all know there was a disconnect between Frank Ponce and Coach Gaddis, and Coach Gaddis being the wide receiver coach. It just structurally, it was weird. I know some coaches have done that and pulled it off, but it just makes more sense to me that your play caller is also your quarterback coach. Those two things should go very much hand in hand, almost the same, pretty much. Clayton Tune, the last few years, he's been Houston's starting quarterback now, I believe 2020, 2021, and 2022. Yeah, I believe 3 straight years he was the starter. At the very least, the last 2 seasons. And I looked at his stats. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that, he improved every year. He went from throwing I think it was 11 touchdowns, 9 picks in, reserve duty. He wasn't the starter yet, I don't think. Then he had 15 touchdowns, and then 30 in 2021, 30 and 10, and then 40 and 10 last year. 40 touchdowns. And if you watch Clayton Tune play, kid's got heart. He's athletic. I think he runs the ball well. Has a decent arm, not a cannon. I believe TVD has a much stronger arm. Definitely not an NFL prospect. He was a 3-star recruit coming out of high school. He was the 827th overall player in his class. I believe it was a 2018 class. Tyler Van Dyke, much better pedigree. Athletically, people are starting to talk about TVD like a statue. I'm like, did you all forget the 30-something yard run he broke against Virginia down the sideline in that Thursday night game? TVD can move a little bit when, he gets a little momentum going. TVD can move. He's not Lamar Jackson, obviously. I don't think he's Clayton Tune athletically, but the man can pick up a first down with his legs from time to time, and tough to bring down. So I think you are getting a more prototypical NFL passer, NFL arm, NFL accuracy when he has time to throw. You are getting an upgrade talent-wise with Tyler Van Dyke. So I think Dawson is going to have a lot more he can do with there. Clayton Tune, again, watching some of the film, there were a couple shots downfield he missed that either he didn't see or he underthrew. TVD won't miss those. Hopefully not. So, I think we're not just getting a solid play caller, a solid schemer, but we're getting a good QB coach. I think he can help in TVD's final year of development. He can help in Jakari's development, and maybe even whoever we bring in, possibly Aaron Noland. You got, oh my God, I'm blanking on his name. Emory Williams coming in. You can definitely help develop him, get him ready maybe in the next 2-3 years. So, for the most part, I like it. Now, yes, is he Rhett Lashley 2.0? There are similarities for sure. There were pros and cons about Rhett Lashley. I certainly, gave my opinions on that over the last couple of years. But let's look at the whole context, though. Rhett Lashley had a lot of things working against him. What did Rhett Lashley have working against him? That wasn't his. There were certain things that were his fault, a couple of things, but certain things that were not. First of all, the culture, just the overall culture of the team and the athletic department. Mediocrity was accepted. Laying down and rolling over in games where we were getting our butts kicked against just better opponents, it was kind of par for the course. That happened a couple of times every year for the past 15, 20 years. So that was just kind of accepted. Getting bullied in the trenches was just kind of meh. Again, the day in the life of a Canes fan. So because of that, you had a bad offensive line. It just wasn't good. You had solid guy in Zion Nelson, but aside from that, no one else really to speak of. Really no All-Americans, anything like that. So bad culture, bad offensive line, and my favorite one, drops. How many times did you want to throw something at the TV when Pope, Wiggins, or even Harley, before he figured it out and turned his season around, just would be butt naked, wide open, middle of the field. The ball would hit them right in the chest or right in both their hands, and it would be a drop, killing a drive. What about that Will Mallory drop in the end zone against Michigan State? Should have been a touchdown. We would have gone up, I think, 14-3. Would have changed the whole game. Could have had a win against a top 10 opponent. Drops kill you, especially in the end zone. All right, so there were a lot of factors working against Rhett Lashley. I got to be fair here. I would like to believe the drops are not going to be nearly as much of an issue this year. I like to believe culture is not going to be an issue. I think that's being addressed right away. And talent on the offensive line alone, massive upgrade. So those 3rd and 1s, we're not going to be running into a wall constantly. We're going to be able to get the damn yard and get the first down. Now, what remains to be seen is how this install is going to be, how we are going to, how exotic is, how the running game, how exotic is it going to be? How fancy is it going to be? Because the running game is complex. It's not just select halfback dive on Madden or NCAA and you just run through the A gap and it's not that simple. Everybody sees it coming. It's going to be easy to stop. So I want to see, us mixing it up in the trenches, pulling some guards, doing that sort of thing. Maybe a couple jet sweeps here and there. Would love to see that. So I think there's gonna, putting together the two philosophies has potential to work. It could also fall flat on its face. I'm not going to lie. This is kind of a risk we're taking. But remember this. When Miami was at their best, it was because they were being innovative. Back in the early 80s, Howard Schnellenberger brought a pro-style passing attack when that was kind of unheard of in big-time college football. Everybody was running the triple option. All right. Nebraska in 83 was considered maybe the greatest team of all time. All they had to do was take care of business against us and little old Miami. Underdogs, undersized team, but they had some speed, they had some athleticism, good quarterback in Bernie Kosar, and we shredded them in that first half. That first quarter, you could see they were on their heels. So we were always ahead of the game there. Then, we start to evolve. Then the defense starts to evolve. We put speed on top of speed on defense. People had never seen that before. Linebackers that could keep up with receivers. Then early 90s, Dennis Erickson comes in, brings in the one back offense, kind of a little bit more of a spread, 4 wide, not the classic power I anymore, staying one step ahead. This is a chance for Miami to kind of be one step ahead, kind of bring in kind of a new age of air raid that uses both the run and the pass that can slow the game down, but also speed it up. I like the idea. Let's see if it works. And also, you know what? I think these moves, hiring Derek Nicholson, hiring Shannon Dawson, I think they were also kind of recruiting chess moves, if you will. Let me explain. Obviously, I mentioned Aaron Nolan. I mentioned, some of the wide receiver class this year in South Florida is disgusting. It's ridiculous. We got to get us a piece of that, hopefully multiple pieces. If we go out there and win, 8-9 games and we look exciting doing it, we put up some points. Who knows? I think landing a guy like Aaron Nolan could be a virtual lock if this offense is somewhat successful this year, if it has a good showing. Not saying we got to win 11 games, but improve, have a good showing, make it exciting, kind of like that first Rhett Lashley season. So there's that, and then you got Coach Nicholson again. He comes over from he was briefly at Cincinnati, comes over from Louisville. Had a hand in recruiting Stanquan Clark. I guess it was the lead recruiter in getting Stanquan Clark out of our backyard. The last guy at Louisville that was able to get guys out of our backyard was Coach Strong, who was just here. And, of course, I don't know if there was any relationship built between he and TJ Capers, but TJ Capers is committed to Louisville right now. Maybe there's a bit of a flip happening there. I don't know. I'm just speculating. But we'll see. TJ Capers in our backyard, elite outside linebacker. Coach Cristobal is gonna attack there. So, yeah, I think both hires will help recruiting for sure. I think the offense will see a boost. My final topic, though, again, my cohort, Flo, who I have a ton of respect for. I respectfully disagree with some of what he said. I think there's validity to some of it, Definitely some question marks for sure. I don't think it's a perfect hire by any means, but it's interesting and has a ton of potential. It has a ton of potential. It was said on many videos already that the air raid has never won a national championship, and that's true. It never has. But go back to the early 80s and try telling Nebraska and Oklahoma that, hey, this triple option BS it's going to be obsolete in 10, 15 years. they'll laugh you out of the building. They're going to think you're drunk, you're insane. Well, what happened? It's pretty much obsolete. I know Georgia Tech ran it. Look, they did a good job. They gave some teams fits, but how often were they 5-6, 7-5? They had an occasional 9-win, 10-win season. I think they did it maybe twice when Paul Johnson was there. But what were they for the most part? They were 500. Air raid when Kingsbury was at Texas Tech, or when Mike Leach was there. R.I.P. to him, legend. There was a lot of 7-5 seasons. But to be fair, a lot of those teams had bad defenses because it was the head coach really running it, and he was offensive minded. In this case, your head coach is the CEO. He's overseeing everything. Just brought over, I thought, a very, very good hire in Lance Guidry. That's another one that has a ton of potential. I think we're going to have a very, very, very good defense. I think that may see a bigger jump in the offense, to be honest with you. So if you have a strong defense backing up an air raid attack that can also run the ball and control the clock, theoretically, I don't see, if it works, I don't see how that can be stopped. And I'll leave you with this. Pat Mahomes, I scrolling through Instagram, I saw this video, he's being interviewed. He said something that was kind of eye-opening, because I thought the same thing. This whole air raid, the Big 12, they'll never make it they'll never win a national championship because it's all passing the ball. They never play defense, kind of like what we're all saying. But Pat Mahomes said a very poignant thing. He was like, listen, it was great to see. I'm not quoting him exactly, but he said, it was really cool to see TCU in a national championship game. Yeah, they got their butts kicked. That Georgia team is just loaded with talent on top of talent on top of talent. Whatever. They made it to the national championship. They beat an excellent Michigan team. It's that was cool to see. And they made it to the national championship. And then he also mentioned that he played at Texas Tech. They ran the air raid. And then you see Brock Purdy. You see guys like, Jalen Hurts, guys that ran more of that spread style, that new age of great quarterback that's coming into the league now. You're seeing a new way. You're seeing the tide kind of turn in favor of a more pass-happy style of offense. Now, yes, the air raid has never won a national championship, but like I gave the example with the triple option before, things evolve. That doesn't mean the air raid cannot win a national championship. I think in our lifetime, we'll see it happen sooner rather than later, as a matter of fact. So I'll leave you guys with that. I'll probably drop another video in the next couple of days going a little deeper into the linebacker hire. I love it. Derek Nicholson. Nicholson. Derek Nicholson. Wanted to make sure I had the name right. Welcome to the U. Former Florida State linebacker, actually was an excellent linebacker at Florida State. I remember his playing days. He gave us fits. He was a very, very good player. By all accounts, players love him. He's a good teacher, good relationship guy. So, he'll be a weapon in recruiting and on the field, so I like the hire there. So I'll go more into that in a later video. Hopefully by then we'll have a new running back coach, a new receiver coach, so I can dive deeper into that stuff. So anyway, guys, again, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. As always, go Canes.